All right. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On tonight's show, I have two very special guests. They both published and wrote a book together, a book that was published in April of 2021. Their names are Ron Chepesiuk and Jesus Ruiz Henao. And the title of their book is The Real Mr. Big, How a Colombian Refugee Became the United Kingdom's Most Notorious Cocaine Kingpin. So they're both here with me today. And this is not Ron's first book. He's actually written many other true crime books. Titles of some of those are Superfly, The True Untold Story of Frank Lucas, American Gangster. Also Drug Lords, The Rise and Fall of the Cali Cartel. Sergeant Smack, The Legendary Lives and Times of Ike Atkinson, Kingpin and His Band of Brothers. The Trafficantes, Godfathers from Tampa, Florida. The Mafia, the CIA, and the JFK Assassination. Robin Hood of the Hood, The Life and Times of Teddy Rowe. Policy King, Gangsters of Harlem, the gritty underworld of New York City's most famous neighborhood. So he's done a lot of writings on this subject. This is a fascinating book. I finished it today. Really a remarkable story that I had not heard before. So I'm going to let Ron kind of talk about his background and how the inception of this book, The Real Mr. Big, began. So Ron Chepesiuk, I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Right, you pronounced it great. Great pronunciation. Yeah, the book's really started in May 2017 when I got an email from Jesus's daughter, and she introduced herself, and she said that her father was in prison at the time, and he was getting out, and he wanted to know if I would collaborate, if I'd be interested in collaborating on his autobiography. And she sent me about 5 links and to articles about her father. And I didn't know anything about Jesus. And so I started reading about him, and it was really amazing. MI6, the British intelligence agency, said that he was the first billion-pound cocaine kingpin in UK history. Another official described him as the Pablo Escobar of United Kingdom drug trafficking. We know who Pablo Escobar is, right? On that sort of stuff. And another article had when he was arrested, the price of cocaine shot up 50%, which told you something about his control over the market. So of course I got interested, and I said I'd be interested in talking to Jesus about this. And so he was in prison, and he called me, and we discussed it. And I sent his daughter emails, and we left it there. And he was supposed to get out pretty quickly after I talked to him, but for some reason his release was delayed, and it kept delaying, and so a couple of years went by, and I was wondering if he was really going to be released on that. And then one day I got a email from his daughter, and said he's getting out October 10th, 2019, and he'll contact you when he gets settled in Colombia. He's been in prison 18 years. So I waited, and we made contact, and we agreed that I would go down to Colombia to interview him for about a week. I would hang out with him for a week and get his story. And so I went down there, and this was just around when COVID was starting to make the news. This was like in late January of last year, and didn't think too much about it. Went there. We had a good session, several hours of interviews. I came back, and then COVID hit. It hit really bad, and so it cut off all travel. I couldn't travel to Colombia, but we had the internet, and Jesus liked to write about a story, so we took it from there. And I did the book proposal. And that was it. I mean, nobody was buying anything. It was really tough because everybody was just waiting for this COVID thing to subside. And finally, I got Wild Blue Press that was still accepting manuscripts and all that, and they got excited about the book, and we agreed to sign a contract. And I spent about it took really a minimal amount of time. It's amazing. It took about four months to write the book, and I had nothing really else to do because I was home confined by the COVID virus, and so it made me very productive. And so we got the book done, and then it came out April 20th, and we've been doing publicity since then.
And so, yeah, it's a really fascinating story. Can you talk about, or maybe Jesus can talk about his growing up in Colombia and how that influenced him and made his experiences in the UK happen? Can you talk about really the foundation of the book?
Jesus could talk, and I can add some stuff after. Go ahead, Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah, Jesus, can you talk about that? You're growing up in Colombia and the experiences and the violence and things that influenced you.
Yeah, well, I'm born in a big family. I'm born in a small town, in a small village, very close to the mountains, called Trujillo in Colombia. Then I went to primary school. From there, from very early ages, I saw the cocaine production, fabrication of cocaine in the farms. And after that, I moved to a main city called Pereira. And from there, I made some friends, and I started to talk to them about business, everything, and I saw many people making money in the cocaine business. And that was very popular in the early 80s, mid 80s in Colombia. People was going around in expensive car, flashing money, everything, and then tasted the business, and I say to myself, I need to get into the business. I need to do something, and then I make a couple of friends, Jose and Pedro, and I become very good friends with them. Always we had to play together, play football, play like the young boys play, and always we was talking how to start a business, how to start doing something. From some reasons, one of my friends got the idea to travel to Europe to try to meet some people in Europe to get our business expand into Europe, and that is how I started.
Right. So you kind of came up, but you were in your 20s when all that violence was taking place with Carlos Leder and Pablo Escobar and things like that. So you had kind of seen that, and you saw the wealth that was being generated. Is that correct?
Yeah. I saw then Pablo Escobar was very popular at that time in Colombia, and even Carlos Leder. And I moved to a city, to Armenia city, where Carlos Leder was a political leader, and he was very influential person there in the communities and everything. And I was looking how he was doing business, how he was making money, and I get very interested in that.
That you decided, it seemed like there was a lot of business in the U.S., but you decided to go to Europe, right? So you went to Sicily, and that's kind of where it all started, eventually ending up in the United Kingdom. Is that correct? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, that's correct. But I was looking into the United States, but I saw and I was aware how the DAA was very powerful in Colombia, and how they managed to catch anyone in Colombia. They had the power, and I was really scared of them. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, and on top of that, USA was the market for the big cartels. The Medellin cartel and Cali cartel were already working there. They already had the market. There was no place for someone who want to start a new business.
It was a saturated market that was dominated by the Medellin cartel, and to a lesser extent the Cali cartel. So it was a business decision. And I think it was if you're a gangster and you want to start a criminal enterprise like cocaine trafficking, I think it was smart to go to a untapped market. And at that time, the cocaine market was really virginal in the British Isles, and there was no competition there. And that gave opportunities for Jesus to grow his business.
And the demand wasn't as strong when he was starting out, and also he was not affiliated with the two major cartels. Is that correct?
Right, right. Yeah, he was more in line with the Norte Valley cartel, which is the third cartel, which at that time was very small. You know, it wasn't really developed, and they played second fiddle to the two big, powerful cartels, the Cali and the Medellin cartel.
So, how did your enterprise really start and expand in the UK?
I started to look at the market, especially in Spain. At that time, Spain was already ready. The market was already done by many Colombians in Spain because of the ease of the language. And then I went to Barcelona. But my main meeting was with a person from the Sicilian mafia in Italy. And that person introduced me to a friend of his, Italian man that was have a restaurant in London. And then I flew to London, and from there I met them, and from there I started in the UK.
Jesus was really young when this happened. He was in his
Yes.
early 20s, which is quite amazing. You know, to leave. You know, he was essentially a peasant boy, and he left Colombia, went all the way to Italy, and ended up in England, and brokered an arrangement which started him off in cocaine trafficking.
And it started as kind of a smaller business, but demand was met supply. Would you agree with that in greater and greater amounts?
Yeah, I started very small, even selling grams, ounce, thing like that. Slowly, we was building money, and then we managed to start getting 5 keys, 10, 20 keys at the time. And at the end, yeah, when we have plenty of money, we started to send 300 keys or 1 ton at the time.
Right. So it was just increasingly large. But and I think in your book you said you really didn't have a problem selling all that. Is that correct? So the demand was there all throughout the UK.
Yes, I never had any problem to get in there or to selling the drugs there. That was going so easy. And the authorities, the British authorities were so relaxed or so laid down in this kind of crime at that time. Now they are a lot better.
And you distributed it through different groups. I found it interesting. It seemed like you had an African American distribution area, the Freemasons, which I thought was remarkable, in different places where the drugs went. Can you talk about that?
Yes, I have some kind of distribution and like that, especially when anything arrives in the UK, I'm sending to the Colombians or to the British gangsters, and we had a distribution in every major city of the UK.
One of the interesting things I found in your book was that you didn't have trouble selling, but you had trouble taking care of the money that you made. Can you talk about the problems you had with the money and how to launder that?
Yeah, when the drugs arrived, that was so easy to get away with then, because the people buy them straight away and the drug disappear in the same day. But money is really hard because money start coming every day, and they make a big bulk. And on top of that, money always left signals through the banks, through the system, anywhere is left any signals.
Right.
And there was big quantities of money to carry around. And to launder the money, I had to use many people or many different companies, but always is something to get there that is easy to be found by the investigators.
The British authorities, like the American authorities, got smart, and they instituted laws. And if you were moving more than 500 pounds at a time out of the country, you had to record it with the government and all that. So Jesus used a system where he would keep it under 500 pounds, right? But he needed a lot of people because he was dealing in millions of pounds. So at one time, he estimated that he had maybe as much as 20,000 people laundering.
Right, and
money.
he was sending small amounts through the gram or those money grams, right?
Yeah, right,
small amounts back to Colombia.
right. And they would hire these people in Colombia, pay them a little bit, and they would get the money and give it to the contacts, associates that Jesus was working with in Colombia.
And one of his strategies was really try to stay under the radar. So he never really used technology or phones. I found that interesting. Can you talk about how he tried to fit into British life and keep a low profile?
Right. He never had the interesting thing about Jesus is that he never really had a big ego. And that's one of the big downfalls. A lot of these gangsters, if you look at Escobar, right? Escobar thought he was bigger than the state at one time, and he took on the state. Started off with narco-terrorism. The same thing with the Cali cartel. They became too big, and they try to hide themselves. But Jesus, was willing to take a back seat. He never liked to meet with people that he was dealing with. He'd always send somebody else on that. If he was partying, somebody else would pick up the tab, not him. And it worked. It worked for a long time.
And initially, he was a bus driver. He kind of had more laborer type jobs.
Yeah. He worked in an office, restaurant, bus driver, and it was when he was working as a bus driver that he finally broke with his day job because it got so bad. He was handling calls on the job from people that wanted to make a deal with him.
But he was clever too because he used those strategies you talked about, but he was the front man for Mr. Big. He was never Mr. Big, right?
Right.
Can you talk about some of those things you did, Jesus, to kind of avoid the authorities?
I don't know. Since early ages, especially in the farms where I grew up, I saw that technology is the easiest way to get noticed when you're doing something.
Right. So you never used that
Get
technology.
the attention, and for that reason, I try not to use any mobile phones. I try to use contact face to face, but never with the people who I used to work. I always use a woman, a prostitute, between that, and she was like the messenger. She will travel from Colombia, from Spain, or from wherever were necessary to where I was, get into that hotel, give me a ring, and I will pick up her. And even the police were checking on them, and they found that they were real. They were prostitutes working in in some different places.
Yeah. Jesus
and whenever I get the message straight from the person who was doing the deal with me into my hands. No any telephone communication. No one in the middle was aware what was going on. What was the number of the container? What was how many kilos with the day, time? Nothing like that.
Yeah. Jesus kept a very middle-class existence. He lived in a place called Herndon and kept a very low profile with his credit cards, with his spending. And
he paid his mortgage.
He paid his mortgage, and he got involved with charities. He had an orphanage in Colombia, which he supported, and he looked like a regular pillar of the community.
And so, I mean, he advanced, and I mean, he was making millions and millions of dollars. I mean, at a certain point, that laundering is tough. I mean, it was hard to believe that those safe houses were like banks for him, that he had trouble, kind of like some of these other cartel members, of finding what to do with the money. How did he kind of try to adapt to that? And Yeah, it's just a very interesting problem to have. I guess you hired this guy Carlos Coronado, an expert money launderer. What was his
Right.
techniques to launder the money?
Yes, I hired some money launderers, and they used to get the money from my people in London, and they used to get the money to where they needed to get the money, to a place, to a bank, to whenever, and then they will send the money back to Colombia, and in Colombia, I will go the big people and some bodyguards, a lot of bodyguards to pick up the money and take the money to give it to to arrange the next parcel or to pay for any debt, because sometimes when we get the delivery there, for example, we got 300 keys, we pay 200, but we still had to pay another 100. And when we raise the money, we send the money back, and all the money go around from one hand to another. It's a lot of people to be paid. At the end of the day, it's a lot of people get involved in the business.
And how many people did you have working for you while you were in the United Kingdom? I think you said it was, 75 or 100? So you had a substantial kind of payroll. Is that correct?
People I used to meet then directly, I know they directly about 14, 20 people. But I used to have about 50 to 70 people in UK.
And not anybody could work with Jesus. He operated like a CEO of a major corporation, which he was. He was making millions of dollars, and he would do everything that a CEO would do. He'd check these people out. Go to their neighborhoods, check out who they hang out, what kind of people they were. They literally had to send in a resume, and that kept his organization really tight.
Yeah.
But eventually you became noticed by the authorities. Is that correct? And that's when. Can you talk about kind of how that cat and mouse game commenced and continued?
Say again the question, please.
I just mean, like, once the UK authorities realized that you might be involved in this ring, like, they started taking it apart. Like, some of your associates got arrested, and so what did you try to do to try to avoid the legal authorities?
I stopped. I even stopped doing business, and I get out of the business for very long time, for over 8 months, because I knew, I realized they were on me. And I knew because some people around me were arrested, and I was aware because from one of the person who was arrested, I get a message from another person saying that he became a grass, and I was aware that the police were on me at that time. I stopped everything, but unluckily, some people who wanted to work, they tried to put a little bit of pressure, trying to keep working. And that bring more heat on me, and the police was on me till they get the person they get arrested for money laundering, and the man became a supergrass, and then the police get all the evidence against me.
Right. So supergrass is it's a term, it's British slang term for an informant.
Right.
Who gets turned for the government. So
the problem is law enforcement's always slow. When they start off the investigation, they're really behind, and the criminals have the advantage. But in Jesus's case, they really applied the resources to his case. They had over 250 individual law enforcement officials working on his case, and sooner or later they catch up. They get the informants, they find money, they do all kinds of things, and they catch up with him. And that's what happened to Jesus. And he got out of the business, and he could actually say that he walked away. But by then, it was too late. The investigation had caught up to his criminal activities, and it was just a matter of time. And if you read the book, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's just a matter of time before they put the screws on him and took him down.
Right, and I said that they arrested his chemist. Can you explain what you used the chemists for, Jesus? Like, I thought that was a fascinating aspect of it. What did you use these chemists for, and how did you have them involved in the shipment of the drugs?
How I get the shipments of the drugs?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and like, you,
how
you-
were the chemists involved?
you had the chemists. They impregnated the clothing, and you had to extract the cocaine from the material in which it was embedded.
Impregnating in the clothes and in the plastic.
Plastics, right. So you
Yes.
had to have a chemist get all that out at a safe house for what, 3 or 4 days, right? So they were
Exactly.
an essential part of the trafficking, were these
Yeah.
chemists that you had. And they were the ones who got, eventually they were arrested too, right?
Yes.
And so I think it was 2003 that you were trying to kind of retire and get out. And then that kind of, there was 250 people trying to get you arrested. What happened then?
That was impossible. No, at that time I was aware that they were on me, but at the same time I was thinking that they didn't have enough evidence against me because there was no fingerprints on any cocaine, nothing. I was not around anywhere, and I was not meeting the people who were working for me. For that reason, I was really relaxing. I was thinking, no, they may have suspicious, but no evidence, no strong evidence against me. But they were back in my car, and I was talking too much, and I believe my tongue was the one who put me in prison. That was the strongest evidence.
So they were following you all the time, going to bars, following you around your house. They were trying
Yeah,
to
they
follow
were
you.
following me all the time. I noticed them on the street. I noticed them drinking coffee. I noticed them even in my neighbor house. I saw police around in plain clothes, but it's easy to notice when someone is looking at you or someone is following you. It's very easy. They were looking everything for a few months. And the day I was arrested, I was in Spain, and I was thinking not to going back to UK. I was thinking to travel to Brazil, where is no extradition. But I don't know, for some reason, I traveled to the UK. I picked up the flight. I went to UK. I arrived about 10 o'clock evening. And as soon as I arrived, I noticed that the police were waiting for me. A lot of plainclothes police, couples somewhere, and I say and I say to myself, it's too much people looking to my side. And I just pick up the phone and I call my wife and I say, listen, they are here waiting for me. I know they are on me, but nothing I can do because I cannot pick up the flight back because they will not allow me. And I went home, and next day, 4 o'clock in the morning, they smashed my door.
And that was it. That was November 27th, 2003.
Exactly.
And they pretty much tried to, I mean, you had a lot of your associates that were arrested as well. Is that correct? So they arrested what, 40 or 50 people as well?
About 34 people. Eventually, there was something like 317 years that were given out in prison sentences, and there was about 34 people in his organization that were related to his criminal activities that were arrested.
And he kind of became, I mean, he's had his family members were murdered too, so it was very rough and dangerous. And he actually became friends with Jeremy Corbyn too,
Yeah,
which is interesting, before he kind of became the head of the Labor Party.
Yeah.
And can you talk about what happened after you got arrested, Jesus?
Yes, after I got arrested, a few months later, my brother, my youngest brother, my brother, when he was working for me, he was controlling in part of the the person who was controlling the money in Colombia. He was the trust person who I used to they say how much money there, how counted the money and everything. And soon I was arrested. He was a murderer in Colombia. He was killing, and he was in a corner in a coffee shop having a coffee when a motorcycle, two sicarios coming in a motorcycle and bullying him, killing him. But all things was I heard through the year was all about the money because he had some stash, about 250,000 pounds in his house. For that reason, he was murdered because as soon as he was murdered, the money disappeared and his home was ransacked.
Jesus had his own problem with the sicarios. There's a chapter 3 in there where he had to leave the country or he'd have been dead. They were going to kill him, and that's one of the reasons why he left. For the United Kingdom, for his own safety and his family's safety. And
it was hyper violent. I mean, the 80s and 90s, it kind of cooled down over time, but that was a super violent decade for sure.
Yeah, Colombia was just incredible. We heard the term narco-terrorism, right? That was Escobar's gift to Colombia. That's what he started. He started this campaign against the state. He thought he was bigger than the state, and he took on the state. And eventually, he was in 1993. He was hunted down and killed on that. But it was like a war zone. It was like Iraq in the 80s. I know because I went there, and I knew people that had people that died, that were killed, in the wrong place at the wrong time, or they were involved with something that nobody liked them. Kidnappings, you could get kidnapped for $25, and I knew
it's
a
much
woman
like Jesus. Jesus's life is marred by a lot of violence too.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about Jesus is that he didn't like to carry a gun. He didn't believe in violence, right, Jesus?
I don't. I was taught that, and I was thinking by my father that to make money, to do business, you don't need to go around killing people. And for that reason, I was concentrate. And that was, I think, so one of the main reasons I like UK, because in United Kingdom, it's not at that time, late 80s, early 90s, no any police officer was carrying a gun. Now, after the 9/11, they are carrying a gun. But before, none of them. And I say, people in here had no guns. That was a very good, one of the good things.
Right.
And so your court case, you ended up getting 17 years and spent the first 6 years in complete isolation. So that was, can you talk about what you experienced in the UK jails?
Really, at the beginning, it's really hard because I have been the only Colombian national that have been in the top high security prison in UK, and I was spoken the top one as AA high risk, and I was on my wing. There was only people who have natural life sentence. And I was there when then, and my food was served through the bars and everything, and only they give you 45 minutes every day to go lie into a box where you can get a biosan and to get shower, and to make one phone call, you have to do the phone call in English. You cannot use Spanish. And I will spend most of my time just reading.
And you said, please continue.
Say again, please.
No, please continue. I thought I interrupted.
Yeah. And then I get moved to another high security prison, north of England, very close to the Scottish border. and there I get into a wing where I get more able to be in the community, in the prison community. But there as well was only very hardcore criminals. And I spent my time, I went to education, I do many courses in prison, and I spend most of my time reading. And after that, I get moved to, I will reduce, my security was get reduced, and I get to Cat B prisoner, standard prisoner. And I get moved to a very good prison, private prison, where I met some friends, some Colombians, and I was able now to share with them all the time. And then I met some British gangsters, and there is where I get involved in another conspiracy from inside.
And the conspiracy, I won't get into it because it's a very interesting part of the book, but it's just when you think his story's over, he gets caught up again. And unfortunately for him, it didn't turn out that well.
Right. So there's a lot of those extra stories in this book. So people go check it out, The Real Mr. Big. We're coming towards about 40 minutes. I mean, I'd just like to ask you a general question. What's your thought, Jesus, about all of the stories in the media, like Narcos, and the stories of this kind of entertainment kind of view towards Narcos? Do you have a feel? What do you feel about that? Do you have any impression or opinion about this kind of the Hollywoodization of the narco trafficking?
At the beginning I say no, but now I say wow. I just get impression, yes, because it's too much, especially the media and even the police and everything. What they say, one the other, and I say wow. I didn't know. I never realized that was that big and that was that magnitude. I thought I was a normal cocaine dealer. And I was doing my business. I was doing top. But when I realized that the cocaine, the price go up 50%, I say, wow, I was really doing big.
And the demand was there, yeah. So I don't know. The supply meets the demand. I don't know if it's the other way around. But we're at 40 minutes, guys. Is there anything you'd like to add or anything you'd like to finish up with before we end the interview?
Supply. No, the only thing. Supply, I was just going to say, supply definitely meets demand. As long as you have somebody wanting a drug, you're always going to have somebody wanting to supply it.
Agreed. And
Jesus is out of the business, but it hasn't missed a beat. It's still continuing.
I'm sure somebody just replaced him, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus, is there anything you'd like to add or anything that I missed that you'd like to finish with?
No, I just want to. There's many things and many more in the book. I would love people to have interest in the book, to have a read in the book. And thank you very much to all of you and to everyone. Love and respect to every single person in this land.
Great. Thank you. A very fascinating story. I definitely recommend this book. Where can people buy it? Ron, do you know? Is it? I know it's on Amazon.
The best place, of course, is Amazon, but it's in bookstores in the UK and in the United States, and you can order it or just go to Amazon and buy a copy.
And what is your social media? Where can people find your other books, Ron? If they're in Ron,
yeah, I got a website. It's www.ronchepesiuk.com. I'm active on Facebook. They could connect to me if they want. I have about 3,000 friends, and I'm not big on Twitter. And there's some stuff on me on YouTube.
Gotcha. And the last name is spelled Chepesiuk. Ron Chepesiuk. Lots of books. Right. And again, it's Jesus Ruiz Henao, Henao. And the title of the book, again, is The Real Mr. Big: How a Colombian Refugee Became the United Kingdom's Most Notorious Cocaine Kingpin. Thank you both so much. I really appreciate it. Really fascinating book.
Thank you for inviting us on.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Okay.